Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Big V Finals Preview. Steve Chalmers, Laura McIntosh to take you in depth on potentially 11 or a minimum of 11 games, potentially more. We'll touch on why a little bit later on. There are 5 grand finals kicking off this week. Obviously 3 champions already have been determined. Is there anything that sticks out to you in this week's fixture that you think that's the one, that's the game that you want to be at?
To be honest, I actually think the Youth League 2 Men's Grand Final Series is going to be a cracker, especially with the first game this week being at Collingwood.
Yes.
Obviously, the Champ Men are always going to be an exciting series with those 2 teams that have been close to the top of the ladder all year in McKinnon and Hume City. Now,
I'm glad you mentioned that, McKinnon and Hume City Championship Men, because Big V will be live streaming on their Facebook page, on our Facebook page, this Saturday night. Tip-off is 7 p.m. Coverage will start from 6:55 at the Broadmeadows Basketball Stadium. There's your info there on screen. McKinnon and Hume City, Game 1. Hume City and McKinnon, whichever way you like to say it. I am exceptionally excited to see these 2 teams go at it because I know you've seen them live before. I've seen them in a bucket load of replays, and they have star power left, right, and centre.
Exactly. If one of their stars isn't on, they've got about 8 more on the bench and on the court ready to back it up. So should be really exciting, especially with the fashion in which McKinnon, came from behind to win their semi-final series against Hawthorn. Hume City.
Hume City, yes.
Came to win that series from Hawthorn. They lost the game at home, but then they won the 2 away. Incredible. And if that's a sign of what we've got to come in this Champ Men's Grand Final Series, it will be very exciting.
Massive. We'll touch on that a little bit later on. Let's start off with Youth League 2 Women. We have Grand Final Game 1. It's at Belgrave Heights Christian School because the Sherbrooke Suns will host the Frankston Blues.
Yes, look, I guess in a way no surprise that these 2 teams are meeting in the grand final, finishing 1 and 2 on the ladder for the year. Frankston being the higher ranked team, and they will get next week's potentially 2 games in this 3-game grand final series. Both had significant wins last week. I would actually say that Sherbrooke did it easier last week, which is surprising. Whittlesea really pushed Frankston. However, if this series is to go to 3 games, Sherbrooke have to win this week.
It says on screen there, as you've just seen, Saturday, 6 p.m, Belgrave Heights Christian School. Frankston have had a key number of players play NBL 1 throughout the season. They are stacked with talent, none more so than Zoe Schonfelder has been excellent, especially during the post-season. Obviously, as I said, they missed a handful of games here and there throughout the regular season due to senior commitments. But Frankston, firm favourites for me going into this 3-game series.
Yep, I agree. Naomi Smith has been solid for Sherbrooke all year. She'll be one to watch, especially at home this week. Last week against Chelsea, she had 19 points, 11 rebounds, so a nice handy double-double, but I say Frankston for mine as well.
Suns and the Blues, best of luck there. Youth League 2 Men, let's kick into that. Similar circumstances. Game 1, grand final, best of 3 series. Game 1 is at the Darebin Community Sports Centre, where Collingwood will host the Craigieburn Eagles.
Yes, and one of the games of the round last week with Collingwood overcoming Pakenham by, was it 5 points, I think?
Yes.
On the road for Collingwood. So those 2 teams we've spoken about have had a fantastic rivalry. So for Collingwood to come over the top of there, they play some really exciting basketball, and I think it will be a great series. I'm tipping Collingwood to have the win this week at home. Saturday, 7 p.m. tip-off at Darren Community Sports Stadium.
Collingwood's an interesting one. Obviously, they've gone so close the past couple of years. They are so determined to get into Youth League 1 Men and above and beyond. The All-Stars, it comes down to their stars. In fact, funnily enough, the All-Stars, it comes down to their stars.
They are All-Stars.
Athian Manuel, Deng Dutt, they've been playing some seniors this year. They come back down into Manny Hendricks' side, who's a teammate of theirs.
Yeah, they play alongside him and they're coached by him.
So they should know exactly how he likes to play the game. But Malang Athian as well, you put all those types of guys together and they can be a very strong unit. We've seen it the past couple of weeks where they've upset Pakenham, specifically last week. I think the All-Stars can take game 1. Where they go from there, I'm not too sure, because the Eagles have got some firepower themselves and Abe Solano on the crew. But I'm siding with Collingwood for this week.
Yeah, me too. I think this week Collingwood, and maybe reassess the whole series after this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Youth League 1 Women Grand Final, Game 1. It's the showdown we all wanted to see and I think deserved to see, because Casey will host Keilor 1 versus 2, Casey Stadium, Saturday 7 p.m. If you're in the area, you want to be there.
Yeah, as we've spoken about, seems like in ad nauseum on our various broadcasts, these two teams form teams of Youth League 1 women all year. In terms of who was going to get the final spot on top of the ladder, it came down to that final game of the regular season. Keilor prevailed at home. I think Casey need to and probably will win at home this weekend. But as for the whole series, I don't know. I think this weekend will tell us a lot.
I'm agreeing with you. I think the weekend will tell us a lot, because it'll be the Stars that step up. They've shown their relative depth throughout the season, obviously going past their rivals in Youth League 1 women, but it's where the Stars will shine over the next fortnight, and you're looking at the likes of Lauren Tuplin, Tess Heel, Beck Peacock, Steph Leclerc, Emily Alice. It's who will stand up when it matters most, and I think this week will go a long way to determining who's going to lift the trophy.
I do think perhaps also Keilor had a more lax semi-final series. They won very comfortably in both their games. Warrandyte really pushed Casey. I don't know if that will come into it as either a negative or positive for both sides, but in a way they have both had different preparation for this series.
That's all youthies done, because obviously VYC Men, VYC Women Youth League 1 men are finished. Congratulations to the champs, Nunawading, Dandenong and Ballarat. This weekend, seniors, Division 2 women. Melbourne University were upset by Pakenham last weekend, so they will have another home game this weekend for a second chance to get into the grand final, and they will face the 5th placed Blackburn Vikings, Tin Alley, Saturday 7 p.m.
Yes, almost a carbon copy fixture to Melbourne Uni's game last weekend, except for the fact that they're playing Blackburn, not Pakenham this week. Melbourne Uni were upset last week, and Blackburn were the upsetter last week with their win over Mornington. So congratulations to Blackburn. I think they've come a lot further than perhaps everyone except for them, I'm sure, thought they might. I think the Black Angels will be too strong for them this week, but Blackburn have been a surprise packet this whole postseason so far, so it could continue this week.
Black Angels found that incredible run of form throughout the middle stages to back half of the season, and they just got to recapture that. It's as simple as that. They drop one, it happens. They only dropped 3 games all year, so they just got to put that to the side, refine their form, and they'll be fine. In my opinion, I think the Black Angels will win. And
they did come off a week off, so whether, some teams aren't great post-bye, so just a little bit of a warm-up.
Division 2 men, games 2 and 3, if required, in the semi-finals in this division. Southern Peninsula are the home side. They finished on top for a reason. They're hosting the Craigieburn Eagles. Already 1-0 up are the Sharks. Saturday, 6 p.m. at Dramana Stadium, and then the next day, 2 p.m, same place if required.
Yes, and in this matchup, Southern Peninsula were very dominant over Craigieburn on the road at the Eagles' home court last week, 102-73 in Game 1. Troyce Manasseh had missed the last game of the regular season and then obviously had a bye. He came back huge with 41 points. We said it was going to be a bit of a matchup between him and Damon Smith. Smith was great for the Eagles as well. I think he had 29 off the top of my head, but I guess just a bit less support for Damon Smith from the Eagles. So I think the Sharks will do this with no Game 3 required, but lay down the gauntlet for the Eagles. Let's see what they can bring.
Yeah, you got to slow down Troyce Manasseh.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that for the Craigieburn Eagles. If you want to stay in the hunt and you want to take it to the Sunday afternoon, you got to slow him down. You got to find any possible way to do that. In the other semi-final, however, Camberwell 1-0 down against the Mildura Heat. They head back home to the Bournemouth High School Saturday 6 p.m. and then the Sunday 12 p.m. if required.
Yes, look, that home court advantage up at the Toyota Hothouse is significant for Mildura. Earlier in the year when these teams were, I think, sitting 1 and 2, Mildura on an incredible run, top of the ladder, Camberwell couldn't get them up there, so Camberwell have to take this second game at home, obviously, to push it to 3. I think Mildura, however, are actually running into form at the exact right time of the season, and I think they're going to do it, if not in 3, definitely.
I tend to agree with you. I think the Heat have recaptured that early season form which saw them win, a handful of games, 9 or 10 games undefeated. Calvin Henry, Dallas Brown, they've got an abundance of talent up there. Speaking of Dallas Brown, he came alive last week. I think he had 30 points for the home
And Calvin
side.
Brown had a triple-double with 19
Calvin
points.
Henry,
and Sorry.
Yes, Calvin Henry. Absolutely. So he's finding his feet as well at the right time of the season. I think the Heat go through. Division 1 Women Grand Final Game 1. Speaking of Mildura, they will host the Hawthorn Magic in the 1 versus 2 matchup.
Yes, and we've spoken about just before the Toyota hothouse and the home court advantage that it holds for the Heat. I do think the Heat will take game 1 of this series. I think they were pushed more and therefore had to perform better in their semi-final series against Chelsea than Hawthorn did against Bellarine, and I just think they're in probably a little bit better form at the moment.
I think Hawthorn have travelled really well this season, and they will thrive in having to take the game 1 up there. I think they've realised, just looking at it now, Hawthorn 10-2 on the road this season. So, as I said,
it's a formidable record on the road.
They'll thrive up there. They'll find a bond, and as they travel together up to Mildura, I'm firmly in Hawthorn's camp.
Yeah.
I think Hawthorn can get the job done. They finished on top for a reason. They are the best side in the competition. Obviously, Mildura, the second best side. We do have the best 2 teams in the grand final, deservedly. Nyla Jamison-Myers, Lara Edmondson as well has come back into the lineup and been excellent. I think the Magic will go.
You think they'll take game 1?
Game 1, and will go a long way to deciding that series. Semi-finals in Division 1 men, game 2 and potentially game 3 if required. There was a couple of upsets on the cards last weekend. Warrandyte returned home down 1-0 to Keysborough Cougars. The Warrandyte Sports Complex will be in action on Saturday at 7 p.m. and then again 1 p.m. on Sunday if required.
Yes, look, the Keysborough Cougars have been the form team of the postseason in Division 1 men. Offensively, they're fantastic. They did a long way to supporting their quest to make the grand final series by beating the Venom at home last week. I think this series will go to 3. At the moment, I'd probably give it to the Cougars. It would be an upset for 5 to overcome 1, but I reckon just the way they're playing at the moment, I give it to the Cougars.
Have found some form. Have Keysborough. Obviously, they did it defensively against Western Port in that slog, and then they've flipped the tables and they've defeated Warrandyte at home, of course. And this will be a much more difficult task to go to Warrandyte and do the job. But they're only going to do it once, and they've got 2 cracks at it.
Yeah.
I think Saturday night will be important because if Warrandyte get on a run, they'll take that confidence into Sunday and they can turn the tables.
Well, as we saw last week in Champ Men's Division, that Saturday night result in terms of momentum said everything. So I think you're right, the same thing could happen in this series.
Sunbury head up to Shepparton 1-0 up, 7:30 p.m. on Saturday and then again on Sunday if required. They were excellent, the Jets, last week, and they can potentially do the job again this week. Yeah,
they're finding that form again they had probably around June when they were top of the table and really dominating the Div 1 men's competition. Again, I think this series will go to 3. Last time Sunbury went up there, it was a cracker of a game. Sunbury fell short by just a point. And like you said, with the other semi-final series in Div 1 men, they've got 2 cracks at it. It's a really tough one. I don't know which way this is going to go. What do you think?
Oh, well, they're both filled with potentially all-star 5 talent. I think Ish Sanders, Atem will be all-star 5 at least candidates. I know the nominees are out now, but I think they could be part of. They could form the all-star 5 players. Shep have just got to find a way to stifle Sunbury's runs. I think if Sunbury, they find some quick baskets, they can get on a real run, and that blows the game out. Shepparton just got to find a way to slow that down, play at their tempo. And they'll win Saturday night, I think, Shep.
Yeah.
Sunday's anyone's game. I'm out, stepping away from that.
So are we neither of us picking a winner for this series?
I think it'll be very, very close.
Yeah. Oh, okay, we've got to pick one though. We could just go 50-50. Who are you going to go?
Shep.
All right, I'll go
Tossing
Sunbury.
a coin.
I'll go Sunbury.
Wouldn't know. Championship women, there's only one game this weekend. It's a preliminary final. Keilor through to the grand final. The winner of this one will face the Thunder Saturday 6 p.m. at Boardman Stadium. It's the Jets and the Devils, and this is big. This is really big.
We probably didn't expect to be going back out to Boardman Stadium this week. The Keilor Thunder seem to have peaked at the exact perfect time of the year, so congratulations obviously on making it through to the final. 6 p.m. Boardman Stadium Saturday. Oh, it's tough. Alicia Jenkins was back in the absolute best form that we were seeing from her in June before she injured herself at the start of July. She took probably that first game to warm up and she was fantastic for them. They easily accounted for Hume City. This one is another one that's so tough to pick. I think that perhaps Sunbury were a little bit surprised by Keilor last week. So I don't think they'll make that mistake again this week. I reckon Sunbury might get through.
Yeah, look, I'm firmly in the Jets camp. I've been there all season long. They've won it 3 times in a row, for goodness sakes. Obviously, the first one, Division 1 women, the last 2 championship women. They're just winners. They know how to win. They've kept the same core for a long period of time. So, for reasons outlined for many, many weeks, I'm tipping the Jets right there. Finally, Championship Men, as we mentioned, Big V Basketball Facebook page, live stream Saturday, 6:55 p.m. The coverage starts. 7 p.m. is tip-off. It's at the Broadmeadows Basketball Stadium because Hume City will host McKinnon Game 1.
Yes, look, that last game that Hume City hosted out there for the first game of their semi-final series against Hawthorn was a massive crowd. So hopefully we see the same thing again this week. And then if you miss out on tickets, obviously you can catch it on the live stream. I think this series will go to 3.
Cool.
I think McKinnon will end up winning the series. However, I don't know which way this week's going to go because Hume City have shown they can win on the road, no worries, if their back's up against the wall. So I think McKinnon will probably win this week, but I still reckon the series will go to 3.
Yeah, I think Hume had to exert a lot of energy last week, having to get over the top of Hawthorn. Obviously, the OT game on Saturday, and then they blew them out on Sunday. That's all she wrote. They would have had a light session this week.
Oh, yeah.
I would have said,
yeah.
Just trying to prepare for the Cougars. They've got to find an answer to stop the Stith and Eric Williams forward combo. And then I think they've found some answers in how to stop 80 Tomato. I think they've got Shayan Mabubi, Dan Foster. That combination together can slow Tomato down in the backcourt. I think it's whether they can find, Jordan Coleman, Jamal Shabazz offensive power to go one up against Stith and Williams down the other end. That's where it's going to be.
And the issue is that McKinnon goes so deep. Yeah. So even if they do stop them, then who else are they going to bring on? That's
correct. And as I said, it's going to be brilliant to watch live stream from Big V Basketball's Facebook page, 7 p.m. tip-off, Broadmeadows Basketball Stadium. If you can't make it, of course, make sure you check it out on the live stream. So there it is. Potentially a lot of games this weekend. Minimum of 11, but there are a lot of games. And there's some that just you don't
minimum
miss.
Minimum of 11, maximum of 15, I believe.
They're all at the same time as well. So obviously get out to as many as you possibly can. If you can go from a 6 p.m. game somewhere to an 8 p.m. game, or if you're catching a second half or the live stream if you're at home.
Yeah. And then Sunday we could have 4 games.
Could have a few.
We could have 0 games. So look, I hope we get some games on the Sunday because I'd like to see some series go to 3, go right down to the wire.
Absolutely. Best of luck to all the teams still alive in the Big V postseason. We'll be doing it all again, previewing next week's finals games on another Blue Hoosh production.